EG. I'm Anna Harris.
I'm Elaine Taylor.
I'm Omkar Kalaska. And I'm Michael Stevens. I'm Peter.
And we'll be presenting to you today all of the options that Tooele County has open to them for alternative forms of energy in their electricity production. There are, of course, many options, but we plan to mostly stress the ones that are most viable for this county in particular. We'll be starting with wind. So wind is low maintenance, it doesn't take up a lot of space, it's fairly cost effective, and you can implement it on your own land. In fact, there are farmers across the country today who have been taking up space on their farmland to implement wind turbines, which they produce power with that they sell back onto the grid if they don't use all of it. It could create jobs in the community to have people build and install these wind turbines, and they have the potential of injuring birds. It's true, but if they're well engineered, that's not as much of an issue. Unfortunately, wind is not of high potential in Tooele County. This is the map, and as you can see, the potential here is kind of dismal. So that's not really one that we would stress in our plan because it's not very viable of an option.
All right, basically another thing we can implement in the Tooele County would be the use of biomass. And biomass is basically different plants that can be used to squeeze down and use their oils as alternative forms of fuel. Now, mostly biomass is really helpful. A lot of people like biomass because it really doesn't need a very big change to implement. I mean, even a diesel engine could support a biodiesel and other things like that. So basically, in Tooele, currently they have 400,000 acres of farmland, which can't really be used that much with a lot of different biomasses because it's kind of dry land and have a lot of salt and everything. But there are certain crops that actually can be used in the Tooele area and all around. Those would be, of course, like safflower and even hybrid poplar. And what these would do is that, I mean, they would help the ground. They would be able to live in the arable land, and they would really live with the natural soil. And also, plants like hybrid poplar and other trees are the cleanest burning of all biofuels. And they would really help a lot of the wildlife, a lot of the animals that would need them to roost, need them to live in, and really help with the biodegrading and help the soils and all of that. So biofuel would be really helpful because it actually isn't as toxic as table salt. It's less toxic than that. You can drink it if you really would want to. Personally, I wouldn't. And it's, of course, biodegradable. So, I mean, even if a truck or other form of transportation that's using a biofuel engine, if that were to maybe spill or crash or anything into the environment, it wouldn't even harm it. It would really harm it. It would just be kind of pouring nature's own ingredients back into itself. So that is why biofuel, it would be helpful in a lot of areas of Utah. Even right now, they announced just a couple days ago that Utah Division of Transportation was actually planting a lot of strips of kind of flax and other sort of things that are used for biomass along the roads. They can kind of an experiment they're doing with Utah State University in order to see how viable it is of an option for the state in general. And they're planning on using these strips in order to power all of their cars, all of their trucks with biofuel. So basically that would help Utah. Unfortunately, once again, like wind with Tooele County, there are a few areas, you can't really see them on this map, there are a few areas that would be viable for the most basic sorts of biofuels as opposed to the safflower and hybrid poplar, which would help. But mostly other sort of alternative forms of energy, such as geothermal and the other one.
Solar.
Solar. Right. Geothermal and solar, which would be more viable.
As Peter here just said, solar is actually a viable option for Tooele County. As you can see from this map here, this section is all high potential for solar power, which means there's a high amount of sun throughout the whole year. Solar captures the energy from the sun and changes it into energy. There are two different ways we can do this. The normal photovoltaic way, which is basically just capturing the sun on a piece of photovoltaic, this right here, sorry. Then there's also another way where you basically take mirrors and you shine it onto one piece of pipe. and there's water throughout this pipe. The pipe can heat up to over 700 degrees, which creates steam. This steam turns a turbine and in fact creates energy. This is a new and most popular way of actually harnessing the sun's rays. So we believe that this could actually be a very good way for Tooele County to capture energy and change over from coal burning. Solar panels can be placed anywhere. And there are basically very limited effects on the environment. Although it does take up space, wild animals can still live around them. They are not high impact on the environment, such as burning of coal. Also, let's see. Basically, solar energy is becoming cheaper each year to produce. So we also believe that maybe placing solar panels on homes would also be another viable option and would also include the community in our plan because we feel that that's a very important part of our plan. Basically, families could put solar panels on their roofs, and these solar panels, when they are not in use, could turn the electricity, either collect it in the home in a battery or else put it back on the grid, giving economic benefits back to the family. This is a real reason why people would want to get involved. They could actually gain money from this.
There are already organizations that actually market these panels to families around the country, and they're becoming more and more popular throughout.
So this is why we believe that solar is a very viable option in Tooele County.
All right, the next option that we want to advocate with our plan is geothermal energy. If you look at the map once again, you can see that red areas in Tooele are have a very high potential for geothermal. You may have heard, recently of the whole contention in Cache County whether they want to buy into the coal power plant or switch to this geothermal plant that's being built over here in Honeyville, Utah. And you can see with these red dots down here, there are several wells that have already been dug down in south central Utah. There haven't been a lot in Tooele County, and this is what we want to try to do with that plan. Geothermal basically just takes this big well dug into the ground, super hot magma from the core of the earth heats up underground water vents, and this creates steam that turns turbines, which is then transported in pipes. And it has very little environmental impact. I mean, basically all you need to do is build a facility and transport it through pipes. There's no strong impacts. There's several geothermal plants already in place in California, Nevada, and other places like that. They haven't had any problems. Also, countries such as Iceland, which you all know, use all their energy with geothermal. So there's very, very little environmental impact. Certainly nothing that'll be drastic. So basically, what these facilities need is skilled personnel to operate them, which can be drawn from the Tooele County area. People can be trained to do this, which will create jobs for the people in Tooele County. Also, the steam from the geothermal plant has the potential to heat homes. The steam can be used. People would have to implement these measures in their own homes, but it's a very effective way to heat your home.
Now let's move on to our plan. Due to what you've seen before with our geothermal and our solar boards, we found that these to be the most cost-effective and the best to implement into Tooele County because not only are they very good for generating renewable electricity, they're also very high potential. I mean, look at all this red part that you can really easily implement geothermal and solar into Tooele County. Leaves us with the problem of how do we implement it, how do we get people to start using it, how do we get people to accept this. Now, as we've already shown, both geothermal and solar energy can create a lot of jobs within the community. I mean, you need people to build geothermal plants. You need to maintain, you need to operate these geothermal plants, and you need all of these things to happen. Along with solar panels, you need people to build solar panels, to maintain, to operate, to assemble. We need people to do this, and by involving the community and asking them for work, not only can we create we can create a skilled labor market, we can get people involved and know about them and can really get people to understand what they are. And we definitely plan to do this. Now, specifically, for solar panels, we want to, put them in, but we also want to really encourage people to put them on their homes. Now, not only will they not have to pay their energy bill by having them on their homes, as you can see here, but they can also sell the excess energy that they have back to the electricity company, which can make them a lot of money, can offer them a lot of economic benefits, showing them how good solar electricity actually is, and can make them really want it and start to use it in their everyday lives. Not only this, we can see that from these geothermal plants, they're drawing up hot water and steam from the ground. What we plan to do is build a community hot springs in Tooele that we can have involve the entire community in using the water that we get from these geothermal plants. This is one in Iceland. And we can have the community coming to this pool, seeing the benefits of geothermal power, and we can have them really enjoy it and understand what it is. Not only this, we can use the steam and water generated from geothermal plants to even heat homes. And we could even offer a discount on heating and cheaper heating for people who accept geothermal plants and get them to, and we can heat their own homes so they won't have to pay as much. Again, offering better economic opportunities. Also, implementing these plans could even create a more diverse culture within Tooele County. There would be a big demand for jobs within the county, and therefore it would draw more people in from other places, bringing it with them new ideas, new marketing, new whatever they have. And with this, we can have a big cultural community, and we think that the people of Tooele would accept this and want a lot of culture with their community, and that would be another incentive for them to switch to geothermal and solar energy. Not only this, we would also involve, again, like Utah State, the U, all sorts of colleges from around the state, where we try to get people from there to help us put in these plants and get them to do what they can do. And we would just want to involve the entire community with marketing these things and doing all this kind of stuff.
Going along with the solar, we'd also like to show you that there's the Energy Policy Act, which gives a tax credit up to 30%. What we'd also like to implement as a possibility is that Tooele County itself offers a further tax cut. This way people will have a further incentive to place solar panels on their homes, or if in fact we do bring in the solar heat or the water heaters from the geothermal plant, that could also be an incentive, giving money back to the community. So this is our plan. Thank you.
I have a question on your plan on the house. So will those panels will feed all the needs of the house then?
If you have enough and you have it in a big enough range where you can get enough sun, which we think is possible in Tooele.
Or what families can also do is they can place a few solar panels and then they can buy off the grid when they need it, but when they don't need it, they can use their own electricity. And when they're not using any electricity at home, say when people are at work and at school, that's when they can give it back to the grid and gain money.
What does it cost of that?
A whole house costs around $20,000. But for a few solar panels, it's much less.
You don't need the entire roof. You can
Not
just
to
do
mention,
it.
if we're only implementing a 25% alternative energy usage, they don't necessarily have to have 100% of their energy coming from alternative sources.
And wouldn't it really pay for itself after not having to pay the energy bills or the heating or energy bills that would come with having your own heat source right there?
And we also learned that a geothermal plant will pay for itself in 1.66 years.
In 1.6?
6 years, yeah.
What was that cost?
Yeah.
The cost for the geothermal plant?
It was $1 million
yeah.
per,
1 million per megawatt generated, and usually they generate 500 or 50 to 150 megawatts per year, so 50 to like 150 million probably.
where was that funding coming from? We believe that since we won't be moving so much towards coal, petroleum, etc., we can also use that as well as an investment for our future. So if we just give a little bit of money today, as we said, it will be paid back in 1.66 years, and then we will start gaining revenue. So it's definitely worth it to maybe go a little bit in the hole to actually bring Tooele back to life. So
And with our country's debt now, that's nothing really.
Interesting. Yeah.
And really, over time, as like the community becomes more educated on these issues, we feel that like there would also be social marketing implemented here because a lot of people don't completely understand the issues at hand. I mean, normally if you bring up renewable energy sources, people just kind of scoff and are saying, you know, wind power is not reliable, but they don't really know all the options and all the
And then
information.
if we show them through these things how good renewable energy would be, we could social market them with these kind of things, and we could make more acceptable. We can make it more acceptable.
Not to mention that as alternative energy becomes, a more popular option, there's new technology being developed all the time, and new technology leads to lower operating maintenance costs.
The pie chart you have there in the middle, potential energy usage, is that the proposed
This is
portion?
what we want it to be.
And so, essentially, the current status, like where is that 25% of renewables?
It's knocking down coal a lot, and it's knocking down petroleum.
as of before, it was 0.5%.
Yeah, as of now.